I'm going to do the Firearms Radio Network disclaimer, just so that's on there. I believe we're live now. Somebody can check that. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and their guests. They do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows. And let me do this to you.
This is the After Action Project, and we're bringing you the student's perspective on firearms training. This is the podcast that takes inside the eyes of the student and the mind of the instructor. From practical to tactical, medical to legal, and everything in between. If there's a course for it, this is your fly on the wall After Action destination. This is the After Action Project.
We're your hosts, Judson Crossland, Annie Montoya, and Jeremy Gill. Tonight, Christian Hutchins, excuse me for butchering your name, will bring us into the student seat of Chris Sajognog's new rules of marksmanship course. For the few folks out there who aren't familiar with Mr. Sajnog, he's a best-selling author of some kick-ass books, namely How to Shoot Like a Navy SEAL and Navy SEAL Shooting, as well as one of the few firearms instructors who are innovating worthy training and teaching techniques. Chris, tell us a little bit more about who you are and your background within the firearms community.
So I am a retired Navy SEAL. I spent 20 years in the Navy, and while I was hand selected to write the curriculum and form the actual course for the Navy SEAL sniper program. So I was honored to do that. Learned a lot about how to put courses together, curriculum development. I became a master training specialist when I was in. Really, that was the highlight of my career as a Navy SEAL. Just a ton of instruction there. And I ended up retiring. I came back from a deployment I was on and came home, and my oldest son, he was 4 years old at the time, wouldn't eat for like 2 weeks. And when I asked him why he wouldn't eat, he told me one day that if he ate, he would grow up. If he grows up, he will become a daddy. And if he becomes a daddy, he'll have to leave his family. So I didn't like hearing that very much. So I had a decision to make. It was very easy to make, although it was hard leaving the Brotherhood of the SEAL teams. But the next day I retired from the SEAL teams. Well, I put in my paperwork and retired a year later. But it was a great decision. When I retired, I figured I'd do the same thing that I did when I was a SEAL, is teach shooting to civilians and law enforcement. And I started doing that. I started teaching law enforcement, like SWAT units, more advanced tactical units, and then civilians. And I realized pretty quickly that the way that I had taught SEALs wasn't going to work for anybody else, basically because as SEALs, we had unlimited amounts of time to go to the range. We got paid to go to the range to shoot. And we also had unlimited amounts of ammunition. And when I say unlimited, like we would show up at Army ranges with other Army SF units, and they would be shooting at a range next to us. And then when we started going live, like they would all like come around the bunker wall and like look at like what's going on, like what is there a war going on next to us? And we had support people who would literally load magazines for us and stuff them in our gear so we could keep shooting. So like that is a big difference between what I was also now experiencing as a parent with a job and, oh, hey, you got to take the kids to soccer tonight. No, I want to go to the range and shoot. Yeah, well, that's not happening. So people started telling me like, oh, this is awesome, but I don't have the time or the money to do this. So I decided to really take a step away, completely away from firearms training. And I looked at how training was done in as many other sports and skilled endeavors from baseball, basketball, soccer, golf, chess grandmasters, classical musicians. And I studied how they trained and how they got good, the process of learning. And I got into neuroscience and how the brain actually forms memories, which are how you learn skills, is through building memories through neural pathways, and how to perfect that and how to shorten that learning cycle. And through that, I came up with what I call the new rules of marksmanship, which are it's just completely different than any other way shooting is taught, because it's really not a way to teach shooting. It is a learning process. And so it starts off, I'm sure we'll get into, or my online wife, Christian, will get into. You said you butchered his name, but I butchered his sex. When I first saw his name, I was doing a live training and I just read Kristen with his name. So I was answering a question and I kept saying Kristen, 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 and she this and she that. And then he sent me this picture. I forget what it was, but he was like in front of a tank with like an M60, and he's like all ripped and bowed out, and it's just a caption that said, "I'm a dude." So, like, by the way, I'm a dude.
Well, I hope Adelbert is listening, because one of our students, I completely butchered his name in our class. So.
Yeah, so
Not the only one.
anyways, so that brings us to today. So now I have this new way of training, and through that process, I also learned that it's more effective to train people online for a variety of reasons. Like I have one article, 24 reasons why learning to shoot online is better than learning to shoot at the range, even with me. And I started off as kind of like a theory, like it made sense, but the more training I've done, so now I'm at like 2 years of teaching people exclusively online. I've really come to truly believe the worst place that you can learn to shoot is a shooting range.
Yeah. I got to ask this question right away. First and foremost, I want to say we're in the best country in this world, which is America. And if it wasn't for people like you and the men and women that fought for this country, we wouldn't have what we have today. And we've gone through some turmoil lately. So I wanted to personally thank you for what you've done and fought for this country. But I've got to ask this. So I'm a huge Chris Kyle fanboy. I've watched Chris Kyle and learned from him all the way back in 2012 when he was on the Stars Earned Stripes game show, Sons of Guns, tons of them. I've read his book. I've watched his movie. Did you ever have the benefit of meeting Chris Kyle? Because, like I said, he's kind of somebody that, as far as a hero, when somebody asks me who your hero is, I never say it's Superman or, Batman. To me, it's Chris Kyle. And then now, I've been following you, Chris Sajnog, and I've joined your online training and I absolutely love it. But again, did you ever work with Chris Kyle, or did you ever know him?
What if your hero was the guy that wrote the manual that trained Chris Kyle? No, I never met him. He went through the sniper course 3 months after I was fired from running the sniper course.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw in there that you were familiar with Scott McEwen, who also helped him write his book. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time with Scott. We've traveled and done speeches together. Very good friends with him, and he spent a lot of time with Chris. So I feel I know Chris pretty well through Scott. Yep.
Judson,
you muted, buddy. I might be muted.
On his microphone.
So online firearms training has started to gain some popularity within the past few years. Chris, can you talk to us a little bit about your online New Rules of Marksmanship course?
Yeah, so the course itself was filmed. The bulk of it was filmed about 2 years ago, and I'm working with a production company in Georgia called Triple Horse Productions, and they used to do all the firearms commercials for like every gun company. So that's how I found out about them and got with them. So we said, hey, let's do a DVD series, and just me teaching shooting. So we ended up filming it. and it wasn't for me the best filming I've ever done, because I did like a red eye flight there. I was sick. I showed up at their studio, which I thought was going to be a couple people with a camera, and it's like a full blown like Hollywood set studio with like directors, assistant to the assistant, sound guys. And it was basically me getting off a plane, stumbling in there sick, and they're like, okay, and go. And I'm like, anyways, so we get done filming this and we're like, oh man, this is, pretty cool. But, I just learned, like, got into marketing and stuff because I had a blog and I had a book out, my first book out, How to Shoot Like a Navy SEAL, by that time, and it was doing well, and I was learning marketing and stuff like that. So I'd learned something called a product launch, where you launch this product online. So I was like, oh, that sounds like I can make more money doing that. So let's do that. So we switched it into an online course. I had to redesign my website to sell that. And I hired a company called, what are they called? I've tried to forget their name. Real Fortune. So the company's name that you never want to hire is Real Fortune, who I spent a real fortune. They destroyed my website. I went from 400 members to 0 members because of them, because they messed up the credit card information. So I deleted everybody as soon as I found that out. And then I started begging people, please come back to my broken website and be a member again. So luckily I've done that over the last year or so. And anyways, when that was done, I promised myself as soon as it was safe to do, I would sell the course, which I did. So sold the course, had 160-ish people sign up. So I was pretty happy with that. And now that whole course, actually my whole firearms training brand, is getting turned over to one of the largest online marketing groups in the world. So I'm going to sit back and record videos and write books and content, and they're going to, do all the proliferation of it, which is good. I enjoyed learning the website stuff and building, but the headaches, I'm glad to be done with.
I can imagine.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Hey, Christian, I got a question for you. We've listened to Chris for the last 10 or so minutes. I want to hear from you. What is your background in firearms training? What type of stuff have you done in the past, as far as, either on a square range, a 360 range with force on force, or just in general, what's your firearms training background?
Well, I guess I'd be like your typical American shooter. I started out shooting with Dad. He taught me how to shoot in the dump, so it was like a real rural coming of age. And I took to it from there. I've always been very interested in shooting. I was big into hunting for a while. Just haven't had the time to get back into that. But it's taken me to, I've shot places in Texas from helicopters, high angle training out in Oregon, mostly all long distance and precision stuff, but a little bit of, carbine and pistol here and there, until I found Chris, and then I kind of got to focus more on the pistol carbine stuff and kind of set the bolt gun aside and learn the close game some more.
What made you decide to go from your experience that you have, which seems like it's quite a bit, to an online training course?
Well, the thing that I found with physical location training is you'd get there, you'd get immersed, week to 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks, on these really super awesome classes that seriously, I had a blast shoot. I mean, I got to shoot from a helicopter. I don't have any military background, but how many people can say that, right? But after the class was done, I ended up finding myself back at my home state airport, standing on the side of the road with a notebook full of notes that, I had that to take on with me to try to continue my education and keeping my skills up, when it's so much easier with online. You don't need to worry about that because it's always there. I'm a paid member on Chris's site as well, and and everything that I've learned, I can always go back and reference. It's like having a massive online Navy SEAL encyclopedia of shooting. It's a great thing, really.
Online firearms training still seems to be pretty taboo, especially in the firearms community. Did you have any reluctance before signing up for the online course?
Maybe at first, just because I'm real tight with my wallet, so to speak, and doing something online has always been kind of, I don't know, I'm a little old school, so it was kind of new at first. But I was following Chris on his blog, and I bought the How to Shoot Like a Navy SEAL, and a lot of his points really hit home. They were really common sense stuff that you don't know a common sense until you hear somebody say it, kind of a thing. So at first, yeah, I guess I was a little hesitant, but dealing, like, I remember when I first started watching his blog, I shot him an email one day, just, who am I and who is this guy that he's this Navy SEAL? Is he really going to reply to my email? You know what I mean? Within like an hour, I had a reply from Chris Sajnog saying, hey, answering my question or whatever it was that I had to say. And I was like, wow, this guy is like approachable. He's reachable. Talks to the common man, you know what I mean? Like the mere mortal backyard shooter guys like me. And that really gave me a lot of trust in that he was going to take me the right way. And then once he started with the actual online training, I was just blown away. Still blown away.
Chris, what do you think some obstacles you have as an instructor getting to get people into the online training course?
Well, like you said, it doesn't make sense. Like when people look at shooting as I need to be able to fire a round out of a gun to be able to learn how to shoot, then it becomes, yes, it's impossible to teach that online. But if you can flip the paradigm and go, okay, it's not that I'm teaching you how to make a bullet come out of your gun. What I'm teaching you is how to train. I'm teaching you how to stand, how to hold the gun, how to focus your eyes, how to improve your grip strength. All of these things you can be done at home. You can do at home, and you should do at home, right? The biggest problem that people have is, the common thing of, I want to learn how to shoot. So I'm going to go buy a big gun, the biggest one that will fit in my hand. Hopefully it's shiny, because that'll scare away bad people. And then I'm going to get some bullets, and I'm going to go to the range, and I'm going to stand there. And maybe I'll even have an instructor with me who will hand me this loaded gun and say, if you point this at me or you point it at yourself, one of us is going to be dead. So here you go, relax and point this at a target and have fun shooting it. And then people that don't know how to stand, don't yet know how to hold the gun, don't know what to do with the sights, they pull the trigger on that gun and an explosion goes off in their hands. And now they think that this explosion and this recoil is the end all be all for becoming a better shooter, like controlling the recoil. And I equate that to, if the first time I rode a bike, nobody taught me how to balance. Nobody taught me how to use the steering wheel. They put me on a bike and they shoved me forward, and then I crashed. So then the rest of my life, I think that riding a bike equates to controlling the crash. Like, that's the whole point of riding a bike, is controlling the crash, which sounds completely ridiculous. But if you look at it, it's the same as thinking that learning how to shoot boils down to controlling the recoil. It doesn't. It boils down to having a training plan, training your mind, learning how to focus your eyes, like actually working on drills that you can do that teach your eyes how to focus. Working on grip strength so the gun doesn't jump out of your hand. If you can make your hand into like a vice grip, like if you put your pistol in a vice grip and crank it down, you can do whatever you want to the trigger. It's not going to move. The bullet's going to go where you want it to go. Well, you can do the same thing by improving your grip strength, but people don't do that. And it's just kind of the way they start off. So the hardest part, getting back to your question for me, then just becomes getting people to understand that they need to learn how to shoot before they go shooting, and you can learn how to shoot at home.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's almost like you said about riding a bike. It's almost like you got to teach yourself how to learn how to fall before you learn how to ride a bike. It's kind of the same thing. I can kind of relate to that.
Oh, it's like going through parachute school. When I went through Army parachute airborne training, that's what they teach you. They teach you how to fall. Like the whole course is teaching you how to fall, and then right at the end they throw you out of an airplane. Like, okay, you know how to fall? Now we're gonna kick you out of this plane.
Right.
The whole training.
Yeah, exactly. So one of your things that I followed a lot on YouTube, and what really got me interested into your course, Chris, was how to focus on the front sight and how to learn your neural pathways and all that stuff. And it really intrigued me. Can you give us a little bit of a hint on an idea how that works?
Which one? So you kind of hit on two things: the front sight focus and then the neural pathways.
Well, let's start with front sight focus.
Okay. So front sight focus, people like this is it, like a lot of people debate this. Like I get a lot of people. It's funny how like upset people can get when I just say, hey, you need to focus on the front sight if you want to be able to hit your target. But before you can accept that is the same way as accepting that you can train online. You have to accept how a two-plane sighting system works. So how a two-plane sighting system works, meaning your front sight and your rear sight, those are two planes, in space. They have to be lined up. And that's the first thing I teach, is that you can have two types of errors. So the first error you can have is a parallel shift error. So a parallel shift error means that your 2 points in space are moving parallel with themselves. And so that's not a bad one. That means that your front and rear sight posts are perfectly aligned, but you might be wobbling around a little bit, right? So your bullet is going to vary downrange. If you have a 2-inch wobble, that means your bullet impact downrange, no matter how far downrange you go, is going to be 2 inches off of where you want it to be. The other is an angular shift error. So an angular shift error means that your front and rear sights are not perfectly aligned. So you have an angular error that starts from where your bullet leaves the muzzle until it hits the target. And the rate at which that expands is like a lot more than people might imagine. So that's where we come into problems. So people need to understand that if I want to hit a target far away, I need to focus on what's right in front of me. And that is those little pieces of metal that are like kind of in your way when you're trying to look at your pistol and see the target. You need to, and so a lot of this comes back to the whole meditation and awareness and stuff, because people go, oh, how can I need to see the target. No, you need to be aware of the target. You need to be aware of whether that target has a firearm. And that all comes, and you can build that through things like meditation and brain performance training. But if you're looking at the target, but you're not paying attention to what's right in front of you, you're going to miss the target. And that's, again, that's a hard thing it's not a hard thing to teach. It's a hard thing for people to change their beliefs. You have to, like, for you to become a better shooter, for you to become better at anything in your life, you have to believe that what you believe right now is wrong. If you think what you believe right now is correct, you're never going to change. So if you think that, like, whatever, looking at the target is the right thing to do, but you're not shooting as well as you'd like, you're not going to become a better shooter. You have to say to yourself, you know what? Something I'm doing is wrong, and you have to be okay with that. That's the only way you advance at anything in your life, including firearms training. So go, you know what? I'm wrong with this. I was wrong with how I was training Navy SEALs as their lead firearms instructor. It worked for them. So like saying it's wrong, like I don't want people to think like, it wasn't bad training, but it didn't work for a different situation. So I had to accept, you know what? Everything I know is not correct. Like, I had to be open to changing my own mind and saying something I'm doing is wrong because these people aren't able to learn. So for everybody listening, I'm not saying do the new rules of marksmanship, though I think you would and you'd love it. But if you're not where you're at with anything, anywhere you are in life, you have to tell yourself, what I'm thinking right now is not correct, and be open to change.
Yeah, one of the things
really
that,
for how to focus.
Sorry. I wanted to. Sorry. Well, Chris, because we were talking in the pre-show, and one of the things that Christian was most surprised about that he said, or that he enjoyed the most, was how the firearms training that he got in the new rules of marksmanship course, how it applied to so many other aspects of his life. Christian, can you expand on that a little bit more, since you're actually in it and you know what the heck I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just learning to meditating to learn focus, to learn to focus on your front sight is one of the ways that Chris trains. But what you also pull away from that is how to focus, right? You don't always have to focus on a front sight. You know what I mean? You can focus on day-to-day life. You can make quicker decisions because you can put focus where it needs to be. Like the mindset, positive mental attitude, like that's a big part. I don't look at my raggedy old groups on the target as, oh my gosh, look how many I missed. I focus more on the ones that are in the black. You know what I mean? Just being more positive as a person because I'm more positive as a shooter. Like, it just makes sense. And like Chris was saying, it's a choice that you have to make. You have to decide that what I know about shooting right now before I start training, it isn't working. So I'm going to start new with this new program and build myself back up doing it the correct way. So I'm not only am I learning how to shoot, but I'm learning how to learn. So it's crazy how it all applies. And it's just like Chris said, it's not really a training course on firearms. It's a training course on how to learn, I guess, the correct way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so we've kind of covered the physical hands-on thing, front sight focus, and I'm all for that, and I think that's awesome. I honestly believe that I'm going to become a member of this website and training program after I'm done with this podcast. But because I've got a friend of mine, Tim Knight, that he screams at me, front sight focus, front sight on the range. But having said that, let's go back and talk a little bit more about the online stuff, because it's still kind of that thing where, how do you kind of do that online? So tell me a little bit about the system requirements. Can you do it from a smartphone? Can I do it from my iPad? That kind of thing, or do I have to have some, what kind of requirements are for the hardware kind of stuff?
Well, as far as the hardware stuff, I don't know if you could see this. This is the only tablet that I found that Chris's program doesn't work on. This is my analog old school tablet.
I do hear it though.
I put in a Cat 5 cable. It wouldn't hook up. So, but honestly, I have a $30 RCA tablet that I bought at a local big box store. It's just some little junky kick around kind of tablet, and I sit around at night taking the classes from that. So you can take it on. If you can get to the internet, you can take this class. It's seriously that simple.
Judson's out in Durango, Colorado, and we were making fun of him because we think he's on dial-up still. So just to be clear, he's okay, right? If he's on dial-up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to be.
Hey, I get a couple of megs a second.
Yeah, so it'll just be real slow-mo, which is good because you can make it more perfect when you're practicing. Just take it nice and easy.
Right. So, Christian, let me ask you this. So if you were not an experienced shooter like you were, in your opinion, and then maybe Mr. Sajnog can answer as well, a brand new shooter, somebody that says basically, I bought a gun, here it is in a box, I want to learn how to shoot. Do you feel that this is a course for them?
Absolutely. Yep. There's no substitute for actually putting the old meat hook on the bang switch, but this will get you there. I saw one of the members on there who we only had shot or he had only fired a handgun maybe 3 times in his entire life. All he ever shot was like airsoft stuff like that. But when he went to the range, one of those times, he was shooting with experienced shooters. By following Chris's new rules, he was able to keep up with these guys as far as keeping it on target and stuff. And like I said, he'd only ever shot like maybe 3 times before that. So just by dry weapons manipulation, meditation, focus, and all the other awesome parts, he was able to actually become a better shooter by just following the course without ever having to spend a dime on ammunition. So
Yeah, I've got a video on my YouTube page. I had a Union Tribune reporter here in San Diego. A little small girl, like 5 feet tall, afraid of guns, never shot a gun in her life. And she actually came to my house, and I had her with a blue gun, like a piece of plastic, and I taught her how to stand, how to hold the gun, how to move around with the gun in her hand safely. So the whole point about training is you want to, as slow as possible, increase the amount of stress. So like not putting a loaded gun in somebody's hand. So the opposite is talking to them about it, and then talking to them about a firearm, then giving them a piece of plastic. So like a blue gun, you can point that at me and I'm not going to be upset. Nobody's going to get hurt, but you're going to learn because there's no stress. And then I took her, after she did that and she was comfortable with that, I took her in the backyard. I had the same exact firearm, the pistol, and we shot airsoft in the backyard. So now she's getting used to manipulating the trigger. She's getting used to focusing and what that feels like. Like, hey, there's no recoil. You just move your finger and the bullet goes where you want it to go. She got comfortable with that. So we did 20 minutes of training here at my house. I took her to a local indoor range, and I let her sit in the range for a while, and we just listened. We listened to the other people shooting. And then she watched me shoot. So she saw the firearm that she was going to shoot. She saw me shoot it, and there's no recoil, nothing bad happens. Then I had her dry fire with my gun at the range. So she's at the range listening to bullets going off. And then she loaded up her gun and shot, and all her rounds were in the center of the target. And it's really that easy. 20 minutes, if you train properly, it's not hard to do. The hard part is accepting that the way it's been done in the past is the wrong way. Like there's not recoil. And if anybody disagrees with that, go watch videos of old Jerry Mikulik, who's like 137 years old, and he can shoot a pistol, like a snub-nosed pistol, upside down with his pinky at like 200 yards and hit steel, like a 1 foot steel plate at 100 yards. Or you guys, if you've watched him, it's like, how does he do that? Yeah. The gun doesn't jump out of his hands, right? There's little bitty pistols, like old dude, he ain't strong, but knows the mechanics. He understands the mechanics of his body and that firearm. And if you understand those two things, there is, this whole myth of recoil is just ridiculous. So that's my rant. I'm done.
I thought the best way to teach somebody how to shoot was to get them out there in front of a camera and give them a 12 gauge and watch her hit herself in the face with it.
These are always fun to watch.
Fun to watch. Not responsible at all by anybody. So Christian, what does that online course look like for the student? What's the format and the flow of it? Talk to us. So you sign up, you enroll in it. What does that look like?
Well, the website is really well laid out. There's all kinds of different options at the home page, and then you have your own little my training type option where you can log in there, and then you can access the course from there. It's pretty intuitive. It flows pretty well, and then once you get into the course, you have to actually complete different sections before you can move on to the next. There are quizzes that follow. which are really cool. And you have to pass those before you can move on. So it's not like a fluff course. You actually need to use your brain and actually do the work. And then at the end, at the completion, you actually get a printable certificate, which I don't know, I'm kind of weird like that. I have a wall of shame at my house where I have all my printed certificates of, yeah, see there, Andy, just like that, buddy. But yeah, right. So yeah, it flows well. It's pretty easy to find stuff in there if you know where to look, and it's a great place to be. I can't really say enough about it. I kind of feel like I'm being corny now, but.
No, not at all. I think a lot of guys are like that. I've got there's a guy in Colorado Springs that I train with all the time. His name is Robert Butler with Kenna's Tactical Group, and I literally have probably 20 of his certificates, and I've taken some of his classes so many times that I would put the certificate, like the most current one, in the front, and there's like 5 certificates behind and inside the same frame.
That's awesome.
We all kind of have, a little bit of a, wall of shame kind of thing. I have 2 of them, one here at my house and one in my office in town. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, Christian, is how do you feel the online courses built upon your previous training? So tell me a little bit about, the skills that you had prior to taking the New Rules of Marksmanship course and how that course has built on those skills.
Sure. A lot of the stuff that I'd learned previously was like, okay, so like stand like this, hold it like this, that kind of stuff. A lot of it was valid, but what I learned from Chris's stuff was the why behind it. Why are you nose over toes? Why are you not in a bladed stance, but more facing the target? Like, and that's where the rubber really hits the road for me personally as a shooter. Is once I know the why I'm doing something and it makes sense, it clicks, and then it just commits to memory so much easier for me that way. So it really shed a light on a lot of dark corners in my training, and it really helped me build on what I already had learned previously.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in just because Christian is not a good marketing director. Like, I'm never going to hire him as my marketing director for my course. So the other things that guys get in the, or guys and gals, surprisingly, I guarantee there's more females than people would think taking the course. But there's an audio that everybody can download for every video, so people can download those and listen to them, in their car or whatever. There's transcripts of all the videos. There's an outline and like a short summary of every lesson in there. And then there's a workbook that goes along with each module, and the way, one of the big kind of my tenets of teaching is questions are the answer. So it's asking, the whole workbook is asking questions, and they're not questions like, what did I say at 3 minutes and 20 seconds in video number 3? They're questions like, why are you training? Like, why are you here? Why do you want to become a better shooter? And that the why is really, and I think Christian mentioned this. He mentioned why, like the why behind stuff. But the why, the ultimate why behind why are you learning to shoot a firearm is the most powerful thing that anybody can have. Because if you don't have a strong enough why, and you say, I want to get up 5 minutes early every day and practice dry fire training to become a better shooter. Like, maybe I know my grip strength is wrong, so I'm going to use, new rule number 6, which is deliberate practice, meaning practicing on what you need to practice on, like right now, like not practice in general, like go to the range and shoot, but I need to work on my grip strength. So, hey, this week I'm going to wake up 5 minutes early every day and work on my grip strength to make me a better shooter. Well, when your alarm clock goes off, if you don't have a good, strong why, you're going to hit snooze and you're not going to get up. And then you're going to go, oh, this training method doesn't work. But it's not that it doesn't work. It's that you don't have a strong enough why. And I actually just filmed a video about this today, where I'm talking about the why. And I'll give you the example that I used, and it's my why of why I do online firearms training. So you start off with what first comes to mind, and then you want to drill it down until you can't drill it down with why anymore. So why? So my thing is, I want to teach people to shoot online. Okay, why do you want to teach people to shoot online? Because I need to make money. Like I want to make that money, as my kids would say, that money, right? So I'm not gonna lie, I want to make that money. Okay, why do you want to make that money? Well, because I want to, I need to take care of my family. I need to support and protect my family, and the only way I can do that is if I have money to do that. Okay, why do you want to take care of and support your family? Well, because I came home from a deployment and I realized that my kids were growing up without a father. And I grew up without a father, and I'm not going to have that. Okay, why is it so important that your kids have a father? Because you love them. Like because I love them. Like so that's why it's so important to me. Okay, so now I get to a point like, why do you love them? Okay, now that doesn't make sense to ask why anymore, right? Like there's no why do you love them? Oh, because they have blonde hair or whatever, right? There's no more I can drill down that why. So my why is love. So why do I do what I'm doing? Why do I train? Why am I teaching people online? Love. So when I wake up in the morning and I go, oh, I need to film a video, or oh, I'm having a team meeting, which by the way, hopefully, my team members feel this. Like they're truly my team. And like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, how can I serve them better? Like, how can I train them better and help them become whatever, as good as they want to be? Like I wake up and I feel love, and I see somebody sneaking in the background.
That's my why.
There's your why. But so that's my why. I wake up and I'm like, love. Like I wake up, bam, love. Like it's not like I go, oh, I need to make some money today, because that's where most people stop at. They go, oh, I want to make some money. Or when it comes to learning to shoot, oh, I want to look cool at the range, or I want to, whatever. I want to win this competition. Like you can think that's a good enough why, but it's not. Winning a competition is not a good enough why. You've got to break that down. Why do you want to win that competition? Right? What does that mean to you? Like get to an emotion, and emotion leads to motion. So that motion means you actually doing the training that's going to get you to where you want to
go. Yeah. And I think, so Christian, I think the ultimate goal, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is why are we doing this, right? We're to become a better shooter, to become the best we can possibly be. So with this online course, what did you accomplish by taking the class? What was one of your personal, hey, what? I've done all these training. I'm pretty experienced. Now I'm in Chris Sajnog's online course. This is what has really helped me, and this has been my aha moment.
Yeah, I was looking for the next level, I guess, and I definitely found it for sure in spades. But I guess for like my real physical goal of the whole thing was I really wanted to see what I could do to shrink my group size at like 10 yards. That was just like one of my little off the beaten path kind of goals. Obviously, my primary goal being I need to protect my family, especially in times like today. But I did that. I accomplished my goal when I first started the course. I was, like I said, I was looked like I was patterning a shotgun. And when I finished, I could cover my rounds with a coffee cup at 10 yards. So that to me speaks volumes at what I could learn. And not only did I hit my goal, but I blew away any other goal that I probably could have set for myself.
So obviously you reached your goals when you started to take this course from what you wanted. Going back, what would you tell somebody, and would you actually take the course again, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've been through the material multiple times now, and I'm still picking up like little nuances and little ahas here and there. So It never gets old. It applies to like all of my shooting. So I feel like I'm continually learning. So I definitely would. This is a course I would take again for sure.
And one thing too, I don't think I mentioned, but each week I did a live training where I did video demonstrations and answered live questions for that module. So there's 5 modules. So I did a live video in the middle of each week on Wednesdays to answer every question, demonstrate anything that needed to be demonstrated. And then at the end, I was like I love teaching, and there's a couple things that didn't go perfectly with content being available when it was supposed to and stuff like that. So just kind of the way I am is I decided to do 5 additional free weeks of like bonus training. So I'm doing that actually right now, getting ready to coming up here do the 3rd free live video coaching with the team.
That's awesome. I don't think anybody would be disappointed in getting the extra 5 weeks of bonus. Chris, you mentioned earlier that live fire training is some of the worst training for someone to actually learn how to shoot, somebody who hasn't shot before. What are some drawbacks of learning how to shoot on a live fire range, and how does your new rules of marksmanship online training overcome those?
Like I said, the common thing is to go to the range and shoot before you know how to shoot. So putting a device in your hand that you don't know how to control, that you know can kill somebody if you point it at them. So you've got all this stress built up. And then you pull the trigger on that, the gun jumps out of your hand, and you flinch or anticipate, whatever you want to call it. Well, anytime you do anything in your life, you build up neural pathways. And a neural pathway is basically the connection of neurons in your brain that wrap themselves together. So, like there's a saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. So if neuron A fires with neuron B, they're going to wire themselves together. And there's a process called myelination that actually insulates that pathway. So like a little neural impulse gets shot through your brain, that it's whatever path you did to produce that result, firing the gun. Whether you did it right or did it wrong does not matter to your brain. Your brain says, you know what, I'm alive right now, so whatever you did, I want to do better next time. So generally, almost every time, that includes something incorrect because you don't yet know how to shoot. But your brain is going, I'm alive, I'm going to do that again. And we just got to go back to like caveman days when dinosaurs were chasing us, right? And we run away from a dinosaur and we're alive, but our brain says, okay, we need to run faster next time, right? And I hope I get a lot of people making comments about us getting chased by dinosaurs. But, you know, in the end, that's the way our brain works. Our brain works to keep us alive. Whatever we did, it's going to do better next time. So that flinch or that anticipation that you did, that incorrect movement that you did, your brain is going to insulate that pathway. And now you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to get out of that pathway. So let's imagine if we are on a big snowy hill, fresh snow, and we want to take our little sled down this hill. If you get on that sled and you just jump on and let it fly down the hill, and then you walk it to the top, if you get back in that same path again, there is no way you're getting out of that path ever again. You're going to go down that same path faster and faster and faster every time you go. Now, if there's a specific route you would like to go, and let's just call that route down this snowy hill good shooting, what you want to do is put the brakes on and put your butt in that sled and then tamp your way down whatever route you want to go down that. You can put as many turns and angles and banks in that snow path, right? And then go the route you want to go as slow as you can, and then take it back up to the top. from that point on, now you're going to be fighting yourself to not go faster, right? Because the more you go down that path that you chose, you're going to go faster and faster and faster. And that's one of the things I teach is don't push your speed. Like I hear and I used to say this too, push your speed, push your speed, push your speed. But that's like pushing your speed like on typing. Like let's say you push your speed on typing. Just try to type as fast as you can. It won't work. You're just going to mess up, right? But if you go and you type as slow as you can and perfect and get where you're using your awareness, you know where every key is, you get to a point where you don't have to think about it anymore. You think about a word and you type the word. The word just happens. And you can do the same thing with shooting. But it doesn't work by going to the range and instilling and burning bad habits into your brain. And there's plenty of reasons why online training is better. I'll give you one. So I know for a fact, and I won't name names, that at least I know 3 of my members are police chiefs. 2 of them have told me that they are members of my online community because they can't tell their firearms instructor that they don't know how to shoot a gun. And to bring that home for you, I've taught firearms training for 25 years. Okay. I, in general, have been on the range with alpha males like myself and likely you 4. And I do a demonstration. Okay, this is how you do a magazine change. And then I go, does anybody have any questions? In 25 years, how many questions do you think I have in a group of alpha males when I just did a demonstration? Any guesses?
0.
Okay, we've got the correct answer. In 25 years, no male is going to put their hand up and go, Chris, I don't understand what you're saying. But online, everybody can do it. Online, people don't even have to use their real name, right? I thought that Christian was a girl. I mean, like, how crazy is that, right? Like, it's totally anonymous. So the benefits of online training are just, like, I don't train people on the only people I go and train on the range are people that want to pay my ridiculous one-day fee. And God bless, there's a lot of rich people out there that will do it. But like even with them, I believe I could train them better online, but they want to pay over $10,000 a day to have me stand there and tell them the same thing once that I could also tell them online and they could watch it again and again.
I don't think I've ever heard or seen of anybody explain neuroscience in such an easy to understand and simple manner. I'm probably going to steal your sledding down the hill way of making that easy for people. That's awesome. And thank you for that. I'm not too surprised though, because after talking to Andy about some of the stuff that you've done and some of the things that he has seen, and looking into some of the stuff that you've put out there, like your front sight focus videos is just kind of like what Christian said. It's like, that is common sense. How come it is not common, and how come nobody has done it before?
Yeah, if common sense was common, it wouldn't be a term. But I really appreciate that. That's one of the things I pride myself on is just my ability. Like I didn't invent any part of the new rules of marksmanship. All I did was look at what works in other skilled endeavors, like in all of them. What works in every skilled endeavor, and that's what the new rules of marksmanship are. And it's actually, I've been blessed enough that I had Titleist Performance Institute read my book, and now I'm working with Titleist Performance Institute. They're implementing my training to teach the world's top golfers on tour how to learn, the mechanics that they teach, the meditation and stuff that I teach. I'm working with Deepak Chopra now and doing corporate training with him on how corporate leaders can use meditation to become like warriors in their industry. But I'd also like to just simplify meditation, because I know whenever I mention it, I know there's a big like kind of hold up when it just, people hear that word and they think Eastern religion and stuff. And is super funny is when I went to film down in Georgia and talk about these things on film for the first time with my producer, and I started talking about, like, he just starts filming and I just start talking was the way it was working. And this one happened to be on meditation. So I'm talking about meditation and he like, all right, cut. Hey, yeah, Chris, yeah, you just, did you just say meditation? Yeah, we're going to have to, like they're in the deep South, like, that ain't going to cut it. Can you use a different word? Like, I'm not opposed to it, but like, did you just say meditation? I'm like, okay, so got it. I need to explain this better. So here's what I've come up with. So let's say you take a jar, fill it with water, and then you put some sand in that jar and you put the lid on and you shake it up. So that's everybody's brain walking around on a daily basis. You've got some water and you've got some sand in there. Now I try giving you some information. Let's call that information a flashlight. And that flashlight, you try shining it through that water with sand in it. And it's not going to shine that bright, right? You're going to be like, what is blurry? I can't really see what's going on. But if you just simply take that sandy water jar, set it down on the table and let it be still and let it be calm for a little bit, all those little pieces of sand, all those thoughts are just going to filter to the bottom all by themselves. And then you're going to have clear water, right? And you shine that exact same light through it. You take that exact same information and shine it through, and now it's crystal clear. Now, the only thing we need to worry about is the shape of that glass, and the shape of that glass is our beliefs on what's possible. So that light can be reflected, right? So you can work on that also. But the meditation is just sitting and letting your thoughts just fall to the bottom so that information can flow clearly through.
That's another common sense thing that you're saying. It makes tons of sense, and it's funny. It's so much easier said than done. Just going to bed, sometimes you lay in bed and your mind is running 1,000 miles an hour, and you're trying to focus. And no, I just need to go to bed. I need to forget about this. Even just watching your video about meditation online, saying, hey, let's just take it one step at a time. I tried it for 1 minute. And I was struggling to get through 60 seconds of thinking of nothing. It's amazing how difficult it is. But, it makes clear sense. Let me ask you, Chris, so who is your online firearms student? We have the new guy. We have Christian here, who's very experienced. Who's your student?
It's pretty interesting. It's everybody. I have I know one of my members does not, well, several of my members do not shoot firearms. I have one I know that is in the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, and she, like Kristen was saying, I teach how to learn, and she said that my training philosophy on shooting guns was the best thing she's ever heard to make her better at being a musician. I have one of the coaches for the, I hate to say this because I've talked to him, I don't remember, but it's the Red Wings. It's a hockey team, a professional hockey team. Is that I don't know hockey, and
yeah, Detroit Red Wings.
It's a hockey team.
Watching this, that I don't know that, but so a professional hockey coach. I have people that shoot archery. I have people it is everything. If you want to learn something better, faster, easier, it's for you. If you could be a professional shooter, if you want to be a better shooter, you will become a better shooter. Kristen can tell you about my return policy. It's better than even I put. Like, how many firearms courses do you know that you could go through the entire course and get to the end of the course and go, hey, instructor, this wasn't the best firearms training I've ever had. Give me all my money back.
Wow.
How many, I don't know, you've done a lot of interviews. How many people offer that?
It's about as many as there are guys that would stand up in a firearms class and tell you how many questions they have. So none.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do that with all of my training. And so I believe in what I do. And I just ran this course. Like I told you, one of the things too, I'm like about as honest as anybody can be. But so I had 160 people join. 3 people requested their money back, and they all said it was because they had some type of financial problem that they had. So as a refund goes for online, 3 out of 160 is an amazingly low rate. But I think if you look at it from that aspect, like, who believes in their training so much that, and people thought I was crazy. Like, I told business partners of mine that I work with, like, I'm going to give a 30-day money back guarantee. Well, wait a minute, your course is 30 days. Yep. I'm going to give them all the training. If it's not the best training they've ever had, get your money back. I do it with my shirts, right? If you buy a shirt from me online, I buy really expensive shirts. They're not the cheapest shirt you're going to find. But my policy, if you look on my website, is if it's not the most comfortable shirt you've ever worn and it doesn't make you a better shooter, send it back and I'll give you your money back, right? Second part, yes, it is kind of a joke. I've never had anybody return a shirt.
Yeah, just to back up your claim too, I think I saw your video too where you said if you join the online and you don't feel it's for you, it's one button, click, I'm not interested, unsubscribe. Now, with that being said, as a member of your online, I've never looked for that button because I don't think I need it. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. But yeah, just to back up your claim, I did see and hear that video as well. Let me ask you a question, Chris. Being the experienced guy that you are, everything you've developed through Navy SEALs up to now, if you had the opportunity to go train with another instructor here in the United States, who would that be?
It would be, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. It would probably be, Jerry, just because I've always looked at him as like I don't even know if he's got to teach, right? He's got to be an instructor. I just watch him shoot and I would just love to just pick his brain. He's just an amazing shooter. I don't believe that shooting equates to instructing. I don't think if you're good, and a lot of people kind of, like a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, Chris, why don't you show me? Like go to the, how come you don't have videos of you on the range doing this, Chris? Like, it's because I don't need to do that. I ran the Navy SEAL sniper course. Like, I'm probably an okay shooter. But to be honest with you, when I decided that my goal was to teach other people, that means that where I spend my time is in education and in teaching. So if I was at the range practicing shooting, I would not be practicing teaching others. They're two separate things. It'd be like somebody going, hey, Vince Lombardi, until you be my coach, I want to see you, kick a field goal from 50 yards. Like, does that make any sense at all? No, it doesn't. So anyways, like, I don't know that I'd want to hang out with an instructor. I would want to hang out with somebody like Jerry. Does he teach courses? Does anybody know? He's got to. But regardless,
Sure, he does.
Yeah, regardless, I would just like to pick his brain, to he would be an instructor to me. He'd teach me through my questions that I would have for him, just because he's so amazing. Like, he knows what he's doing. I've never seen him teach anything. I've just seen him do cool stuff. And he looks like he'd be fun to hang around with too.
No, I'd agree. I think that'd be a great guy to go train under.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all about, like, I try not to like put other instructors down too. Like I would go learn from anybody. If I had the time, like I'm the kind of guy, like if I can learn one thing from one person, like that's enough. That could be something that saves my life. So yeah. I just think most instructors are doing it wrong. I think they're doing it in person, which, there is a place for that, but people need to know how to shoot before they start shooting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Chris. So we've covered a lot of different things here. Do you actually offer in-person training at all?
I do. I'd mentioned earlier, I priced myself high enough. Basically what I did is I priced it at a range where if you want to spend that much money to have me come to you and teach you for one day, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to leave my family, because remember, going back to why I do what I do is for love of my family and being with my family. If you want to take me away from my family for 24 hours, it's going to cost you $10,500. And it may sound crazy to people, but people I turn down more people than I accept, just because I have such a busy schedule doing stuff. But I kept raising it until I stopped getting phone calls and requests for that.
That makes sense. When I saw that, I was probably one of those guys that was like, oh man, that's outrageous. Must be worth it. I thought it must be worth it. And then now hearing your, so I have vacation coming up, and my little boy asked my wife, he said his daddy's coming on vacation. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done with everything. Cause that's the last thing that you want to hear your son ask. So I completely understand it. $10,000, is that unreasonable? I don't think it's unreasonable from their perspective of, yeah, you're taking me away from my family for a day. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
I get a lot more people. Something I also offer is 1 hour of online training is $1,000. So I do a couple of those a week, and I offer the same thing with that. I'll do 1 hour with you online. If it's not the best training you've ever had, I'll give you your $1,000 back. The only thing you don't get is the recording of it, because it wasn't good to you, wasn't worth it. I've never had in 2 years anybody request their money back. In fact, I have like dozens of testimonials of it was the best money anybody's ever spent. So, and that's usually the people that do that are like, the last guy I just did one with was, he teaches a SWAT unit. He's one of the SWAT instructors up in LA. So people that want to, like, they're really serious about taking their firearms training to the next level. Like as you get better and better, that's what you need. You don't need to go to the range and shoot more. You need like one piece of information that's going to completely change who you are and how you teach, like in his instance. Or, like a lot, other people, or there's just rich people out there who go, you know what, I want to get started off correctly. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. So I can, sit with you for an hour and go, okay, let's figure out your why. That's normally what I sit and with people, because once you get that, it's like everything else just falls into place. So there's different things I offer, and I do everything from that to free videos on YouTube and stuff on my blog. So I know everybody can't afford it, but I definitely love teaching, and I love, as Kristen said, when people email me, I try to, I don't always get to, but I email everybody back. And there, I know there's other firearms instructors out there that you could say like, if I may, I'm a tier 1 firearms instructor. So when I first retired, I contacted like all the people. I was like, oh, let me contact all these guys. I want to do a blog post of like the top tips from the top firearms instructors out there. So I contacted all these guys and I'm like, hey, this is who I am. I'm nobody special. I'm a Navy SEAL. I wrote the SEAL Sniper Manual, and I want to do a blog post and I want to promote you. I want to give the top tips. You can send me a link to whatever product you're promoting, whatever course you want to run. I don't care. I want to help you out and promote you. That was literally it. And most of them didn't write me back. So I know if they're not writing me back, they're not writing, what did you call it, Kristen? Mere mortals? Like the mere mortals aren't getting responded to either. So I really pride myself on being different. I love, and hopefully that comes through for those of you that are members, like that I truly do care. Like it's beyond, I want to make that money, right? It's, I want to make you better people. I want you to be part of my team, part of my family.
Well, since you said that you love your people so much and you love your family, which we all agree, right? So I've got to ask the question. You have a $500 challenge coin on the website, and I found a nice little Easter egg discount code for that challenge coin. So where would I find the discount code for that $10,000 class?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, there is no such animal for that. But yeah, the thing with the discount or the coin, I actually had one person buy the $500 coin. Happy to send it to him. He could have gotten quite a few months or several years worth of training. Also, had he just joined as a member and gotten the discount code, which gets it to you for $11, which is just over a dollar over my cost to get those made. But yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have one, right, Andy?
I have not ordered one yet, but I'm going to.
Oh man, I could have just called you out, brother.
I know, dang it. No, I just signed up last week, and I will be getting one. We, myself, Judson, and Jeremy are huge into patches, thanks to Mr. Patches himself, Judson. So I'm going to order a few patches as well. But in all seriousness, Chris, thank you for everything you've done. I watched your free YouTube videos for months before I even decided to get even more interested in your course. And then I saw that limited edition class come up. I was on the fence doing it, and then boom, sold out. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get on the online course. I talked about you to these guys, and then our host for the Firearms Radio Network, the owner, Sean Heron. I've talked to him too about getting him on his show too. We like shooting, so I'd like to see that happen. It's a little bit more lighthearted and fun show that you'd enjoy. So hopefully Sean's listening to this and he takes my advice. But thank you for everything. So far, I'm really enjoying the online course of what I've had the time to do. So looking forward to continue.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy.
Hey, Christian, I got a question for you really quick, and then we'll wrap this up. I know we're kind of going a little bit long here. We're a couple minutes over. But just, Christian, what advice would you give somebody before they signed up for this course? I mean, just like in one or two sentences, tell us like what you wish you would have known before you signed up for this course.
Geez, I guess I'd have to say, I mean, I guess for advice, I'd have to tell people to be ready to put in the work for what you want to get out. I mean, you could go through this course and just go through it, or you could really put in the work and use your whole body, your brain, and your heart, and the whole thing to really get the most out of the course that you can. But I guess my advice would be just sign up, get it going. I mean, it's so I mean, the YouTube videos and all that stuff that Chris has out there are all really, really good, but the content that's on the website is really solid stuff.
Totally awesome. Jeremy?
Chris, what advice do you have for somebody who's interested in taking this class?
Figure out your why. You know, like it's the same thing. If you come to the class and you don't have a why, you'll sign up as a member and you don't have a why, and you'll just kind of fall out the wayside. You'll keep doing what you're doing right now, which obviously isn't working. Otherwise, you wouldn't come to the website. But the other thing I'd say is don't expect anything like anything you've had before, because it's nothing like that. So if you're like anybody who comes in and wants to know, and I have this on like in my FAQ, if you go to my FAQ on about my memberships, like how many videos am I going to get per week or per month, or, you know, if you're looking for like hours of video, I would suggest do not sign up for my membership. Just go to YouTube and keep looking at YouTube videos, and you can watch like millions of hours of meaningless video. That's going to confuse you more and more, like you probably already are. Just keep doing that, because like literally people will go, they'll write me and go, how many hours of video am I going to get? And I'll just tell them, don't sign up. That's my answer. Don't sign up. If you're there's going to be a month where I may not post anything. You know, that's the way it is. You're going to have access to all the, there's tons of stuff on there. You're going to have access to the other members and communications, and every month I do a live, I call it a hangout, because it's like part training, part like, let's just hang out and I drink wine with my neighbor and we talk about training, we talk about life, we talk about everything. But you know, and then there's other months where I'll be like, oh, here's a whole course that I just developed, but I'm just going to give to you guys. So don't expect what you've seen before, I guess would be my thing.
Awesome. That's great advice, and I'm interested to sign up and get started on that as well. We definitely appreciate you guys jumping on. If anybody would like any more information, go to chrissajnog.com. That's CHRISSAGNOG.com. I think I got that right. And then he's everywhere at Chris Sajnog. I don't think you guys have too much trouble finding the correct Chris Sajnog, but we appreciate you guys jumping on and everybody for tuning in. Y'all Absolutely. Stay safe and have a good night.
All right. Thanks guys. For having me.